Hi, I'm Lee Nish, pastor of Sparks United Methodist Church. Welcome to worship. I'm glad you're here because you're going to hear me say something that I rarely ever say. We're going to talk about words, and specifically a word that you should never say in church. That's right, when I was growing up, and even today, I'll let a word slip here and there and now and then, and you know I'm very sorry for it, and I know I offend people, but, well, the word we're going to talk about today, I can guarantee you, will offend just about anybody. And so, if you want to find out what that word is, welcome to worship.
The power of your love is changing me, changing me, changing me, oh Lord. Change me by the power of your love. You brought me to your side, and what else can I do? My heart is open wide, my hands reach up to you. I'm calling out for more, I'm asking in your name, that by your Spirit, Lord, I will never be the same. The power of your love is changing me, changing me, changing me, oh Lord. Change me by the power of your love. I'm singing out my praise, I'm pouring out my thanks, for the power of your love is changing me. I'm lifting up my voice, I'm dancing in the joy, for the power of your love is changing me. I'm singing out my praise, I'm pouring out my thanks, for the power of your love is changing me. I'm lifting up my voice, I'm dancing in the joy, for the power of your love is changing me. The power of your love is changing me, changing me, changing me, oh Lord. Change me by the power of your love. Change me by the power of your love.
Hi, my name is Joanne Nish. I will be reading from the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 10. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost.
Well, now that I've gotten your attention, I'm going to tell you the word that not only I want to say today, but I'm going to ask you to say it as well, and let's see how much trouble we can get into. No, it's not a four-letter word, and I'm sure your imagination has been running wild ever since I introed the message to you a little earlier. It's actually a 10-letter word. It's a big word, but it's a word that will turn people off immediately. Yes, even church people who come to Sparks United Methodist Church. The word is evangelism. That's right, evangelism. And you can count the letters. It is a 10-letter word, and it will scare people away, turn people off, and for the most part, have people turn this message off. But don't touch that dial or button or however it is that you would use to turn me off, because I want to just say something about this word that will hopefully redeem it in your mind and actually, hopefully, get you to engage in it as a word that you use from time to time, and even start using it in the enterprise of your life. But why do we not like that word? Well, it brings bad memories to us. Sometimes we look at that word evangelism and we think immediately of people who use the phrase turn or burn. In other words, use it as a fear word to try to fear you into whatever it is that they're trying to convince you of. Sometimes it comes in the form of a question. Maybe you've heard this question asked of you before. I know it's been a question that's asked of me. If you were to die this very night, do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your soul would go to heaven? I don't know about you, but that question turns me off. It makes it sound cheap. In fact, sometimes I have been asked from time to time to do what is called, to try to get somebody on their deathbed to say the sinner's prayer. Now, I couldn't tell you from memory what the sinner's prayer is, but for some people, it's a magical evangelical phrase that if somebody says it, the right words, it makes God forgive all of their sins and gives them a front row seat or a ticket into heaven. All of these things kind of remind us of evangelism. And even now in this politically charged country, we see the word evangelical tied to the word conservative, tied to the word Christian, and understand evangelical Christian to be a conservative political movement. All of that is the kind of baggage that unfortunately has gotten tied to the word evangelism, which is why we find it very hard and off-putting to use that word anymore. But I want to just say that I think that it's time that we redeem that word, not only for our own use, but for the sake of the kingdom. For instance, if we were to talk about the enterprise that Jesus started, not even thinking about the church, but just the enterprise itself, and consider what were Jesus's mission, vision, and values. Let's just call this Jesus CEO. It's Jesus's organization. It says what Jesus did, why he did it, what his vision was, and what his core values are. I think you could not escape from understanding that Jesus's enterprise was one of evangelism. For instance, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verse 10, we hear a pretty clear statement of Jesus's mission. He says, "For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." Again, that's Luke chapter 19, verse 10. If you want a slightly different version of that, you can find it in John chapter 10, verse 10, when Jesus, speaking of himself, says he came that they may have life and have it abundantly. The way I like to say it is, I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's kind of what Jesus's mission really is. So what's his vision? Well, I think his vision comes best from Acts chapter 1, verse 8. And that book of Acts, as you probably know, is written by the same author who wrote the Gospel of Luke. So they're kind of bookends and follow Jesus's vision for his disciples. Just before he ascends into heaven, Jesus pitches this vision to his disciples. He says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." It's pretty clear that Jesus had a fairly clear vision for his disciples then, and also for us now, because he expects that when the power of the Spirit comes upon us, we will be his witnesses. That means we will, on his behalf, seek out and save the lost, accomplish his mission. So what are the core values that the Jesus enterprise contains with it? Well, this may surprise you because this is going to take a little unpacking. But I think Jesus's core values are these. Number one, God is eternal. Number two, heaven and hell are real. And number three, eternity matters, and eternity starts now. In other words, Jesus' values have a sense of urgency to them. They did for him in his day, and they do for us as well. Number one, God is eternal, and you might say, well, duh, that's kind of self-evident, is it? Well, it may be self-evident, but I'm not sure we have thought through clearly what eternal means. For instance, when we read in the very first verse of the very first book of the Bible, that's Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we read this phrase, "In the beginning, God." And then that phrase goes on, and then the verses go on, and then the chapters go on. But what we learn that's very important is that God is above chronological time. In other words, in the beginning is a matter of when chronos, or chronological time, begins. So the first actor is God, who lives above or beyond chronological time. That, I believe, is the best definition for the word eternal. And then we come about this thought again in the book of Exodus, when God, through the burning bush, is trying to persuade Moses to free his people Israel from the bondage that they're under as slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And so God is persuading Moses that Moses can offer his name up when the Pharaoh says, "Well, whose God are you representing? Or tell me the name of God." And instead of being specific about names, the burning bush, the voice of God simply says this. God says, "I am that I am." And you may tell Pharaoh, "I am that I am has sent you." In other words, God uses the phrase "I am" to transcend chronological time. It is a name that only can be used as eternal time. So before chronology began, God's name was "I am." Currently, God's name is "I am." In the future, perhaps even after what we know as time ceases to exist, God will still be "I am." And then in the Gospel of John, when Jesus suggests who he is, he uses the same phrase, "I am." Even before Abraham was, "I am." You get a sense that God and even Jesus had a very strong understanding of eternity, and it was not trapped in chronos. In fact, I would say it was very much understood in kairos. That is an abundance or quality of time, not a length of time. And so as we move to the second piece, God is eternal, heaven and hell are real. Now this may surprise you, but in 2021, the Pew Research Center did a survey and found out at that point that 73% of Americans believed in heaven. 62% of Americans believed in hell. Slightly less Americans believed in hell than in heaven. And what's very clear in the scriptures is that heaven and hell are real. But heaven and hell tend to be representative of eternity, or what is eternal, not what is chronological. And so, in many ways, it doesn't really make sense to tell somebody to go to hell. Not that you would ever do that. I don't do that. But hell is not a place you go to when you die. Heaven is not a place you go to when you die. Again, heaven and hell are eternal, not chronological, which means, number 3, heaven and hell begin now, because eternity begins now. In fact, eternity is a choice, and perhaps even less of a choice that you would ever imagine, of every moment of our lives. We're either choosing heaven or hell, life or death, each moment that we make a decision. And particularly when we make decisions that are moral decisions or have moral impact on our lives or the lives of others. Let me give you an example that I found to be very compelling. As some of you know, I enjoy the streaming services, and because of friends of ours who suggested that Joanne, my wife, and I watch a Netflix series, we have been making our way through, I think we're through, we've started season 8 of Heartland. It is a marvelous series where almost every episode causes me to cry because people in that series are making eternal decisions, decisions that impact the life of the people in the series. It is an extremely well-written and non-offensive series for good church people. Also, my daughter suggested that I watch a series on HBO Max called Euphoria. This series has a lot of words that would be inappropriate to be used in a church. A lot of scenes, if you would understand what this is about, it's about getting caught up in drug life with foul language, nudity, crimes, everything that you can imagine is bad. But I would say the same thing about Euphoria as I say about Heartland, that almost in each episode, there are decisions being made by the main characters that are eternal decisions as well. That means decisions that lead them in the moment towards heaven or in the moment towards hell. And so let me cycle back to evangelism. Why is all this important to us? Well, I want to share with you a quote from John Wesley. John Wesley was the founder of Methodism back in the 1700s, and here's what he said about eternity that I found very compelling. He says, "I judge all things only by the price they shall gain in eternity." The price they shall gain in eternity. In other words, should we be judging particularly our words, our actions? Of course. But they have eternal consequences. And by eternal, I do not mean where we end up after we die. I mean where we find ourselves during the time that we live. My faith in God is enough to let me rest in the peace that God will take care of things after I die. What I know is I have a very short period of time on this earth. And I've been tasked with a gospel that is very clear about Jesus' mission, vision, and values. That I have been privileged to carry on Jesus' mission to seek out and to save the lost, to carry on Jesus' vision under the Holy Spirit and power of the Spirit, to be Jesus' witness, first in Jerusalem, then in Judea and Samaria, and of course now to the ends of the earth. And also to reside in the three values that I think are essentially Jesus' values. Number one, God is eternal. Number two, heaven and hell are real. And number three, eternity matters, and eternity begins now, which leads me back to evangelism. Jesus' entire ministry was bathed in evangelism. He was here to seek and to save the lost. That's why you and I are here. And whatever label church you use, whether it's a Christian church or a church of another faith or background, whether it's Methodist or non-Methodist, or whether you are independent and on your own, I know that there is a place for you in Jesus' enterprise. I happen to think it's a lot easier to fulfill Jesus' enterprise in the group of a believing congregation. But I know of people who understand Jesus' enterprise even apart from that. But I want to make this offer to you. I would like you to consider joining Jesus' enterprise, joining in his mission, joining in his vision, joining in his values. And if you are so inclined, I would be humbled and also privileged for you, if you are near to Sparks United Methodist Church, to just simply show up some Sunday come up to me. I'm pretty easy to identify. I'm usually the best dressed person in the room. And to just simply say, I'm here to enlist in Jesus' enterprise. Whether or not you ever become a member of this church or any other church, that's not my main concern. My concern is that you join God in God's mission through Jesus' mission, vision, and values to change the world. Go change the world.
Hello, my name is Cindy Evans, and I'm here to lead us in prayer today. I'm glad that you made it to this time to worship and think about where God is working in your life. I had a little hard time settling in. It's not always easy. So today I'm going to share a prayer with you, written by someone else, from a resource that I use that sometimes helps me find a place to center when my own words don't help me center. Oh, gracious and unconditional God, it's just you and me in this silent moment. In the stillness, I know you are near, and you are all I need. Lord, help us all here now to know that you are near. Thank you for stepping down from heaven to earth through your Son, Jesus Christ, so that your mission of love to people who could never earn it or deserve it, people like me, people like you, receive your amazing and unconditional love. I give you the good and the bad and the everything in my life. Lord, take this. We're trusting you with our present and our future, but we know that you can't do it without us. Not heaven on earth, kingdom come. You need all of us. Lord, hear us now as we pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. May you feel God with you in the coming week.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
Thanks for joining us here at Sparks UMC. You can connect and join the conversation on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. To receive the weekly emails that share what's happening in the Sparks UMC community, scan the QR code on the screen or let us know by filling out the Connect card on our website. If you would like prayer, email us at sparksumcprayers@gmail.com or scan the code. We are grateful for your support of the ministry and mission of Sparks UMC. We'll see you next time. Be blessed.